We'll go ahead and transition here and get into the Q&A portion. So can be insight learned from this past week or however long, doesn't really matter. Insight you learned recently, or any just questions, things that have been going on in your world, things you want some more thoughts and input on from coaches or other clients alike. Jordan, what you got, sir? You're muted.
Hey guys, good morning. I was going to ask Nicole about this in our group meeting later, but figured I'd ask the group as well. Has anybody used services for like companies that come out and basically do like video posts for you? So like they'll make like content in terms of like Facebook Reels or Instagram Reels or anything like that. That was one part. And then the other part was, has anybody been down I've seen some stuff online about this. Has anybody been down the route of like Siri voice search? So like if someone says, looking for electrician in through Siri, has anybody been down that route as well?
My first comment, Jordan, is if you start learning TikTok dances, I will come down and record the content for your Facebook and Instagram.
It would be so, as the kids say, it would be so cringe. It would be cringe.
Oh gosh.
The last time I danced was at my wedding.
Yeah. I kind of have tried to convince Robert Redmond. He's been doing our social media, kind of working on that, where it's like, Robert, I really want you to learn some TikTok dances.
What?
I think it'd be hilarious.
Wow. Yeah. So who I heard about it from was actually the gal who does cleaning at our house.
Yeah.
And she said she has like a social media company. They're local, and like twice a month for an hour, they come and basically film before and after things. Like, this is what the bathroom looked like before. This is what it looks like after. And I thought that might be good for some content. Although I'm thinking in my head, like, how do you track that? It's more of like a brand thing than it is like a revenue thing.
That's definitely the mindset to have of that, Jordan. What I will say is, if you are a remodeler, it is a very worthwhile investment for you to get professional photos done. The befores don't necessarily have to be, but definitely the afters. You can throw a stick and hit 4 different photographers in your area. And so like finding one is not typically tough. There are online, you can use websites like Fiverr. We just use one called Upwork to find a virtual assistant that we're using. And so there's a ton of different websites out there that can help you find, somebody local who can take photos. It wouldn't be something, Jordan, that I would make like a giant investment in, if it's going to be expensive to do it. I just don't usually see a huge return from it.
Yeah, I think it was $500 a month for 2 hours of content. Like 2 hours worth of filming. I don't know. Like that probably equates to like 2 30-second clips, but
yeah, I would definitely break that down where it's like, hey, how many posts am I going to be able to make from, that $500? What I would just do to start is you can schedule posts for your Facebook and Instagram through Meta Business. I actually filmed a video last week, Bryce. I don't know if you want to throw that into the chat here of how to do that, because you can connect your Facebook and Instagram where you post on one, it posts on the other. And I think a lot of times we get caught up in thinking that it needs to be something professional or, it's really just posting. Like you're just staying in front of your customer database. You're staying in front of those viewers. And so it doesn't need to be professionally done. Of course, the nicer the photo is, the better, but that's not going to be like a big factor in the growth of your company or the success of that post. And so I would just really encourage just getting in the habit of you trying to schedule 3 times a week, or if you have an office manager, that's definitely something that office manager can have on their to-do list to tackle. And just like pictures of the team working, completed projects, professional, or if you have headshots of your team or team photos. I'll tell you, some of the posts that we post on Rem and Growth that do the best are funny memes that we find online. So like don't overthink it. I would much rather see a client try to do it like investing money into that, just because it's never going to be like a giant return. And the whole point of it is to just, like you said, branding. You're just staying in front of them. And so it doesn't need to be anything fancy.
How about the Siri voice search?
Yeah. Bryce, I think you put something in the chat. I don't know if you have thoughts on that one.
Yeah, it's something I'd mentioned maybe a week or two ago as well, because I've had a few more clients generally be asking recently about voice search and things like that. Siri in particular is really the only one that's got any sort of traction because of iPhones. And with them, it's having an Apple Maps profile, similar to having a Google Maps profile. However, two things. One, still primarily focus your efforts and review gathering and everything like that on Google Maps. Number two, with Apple Maps, and just like with any other listing, make sure you have made one and just that the information is accurate. If you get, reviews and stuff like that there, great, but that's not going to be your primary effort. The thing with Apple Maps though is you have to have a physical address to pin it to, otherwise they don't let you go live with it. So, and it can't be a residential address either. Like even if, we've got a residential address pinned on the Google business listing with somebody, we are not able to get one on with the Apple Maps. This is what I've run into so far. So summary of that, Apple Maps.
No, this link that you sent, Apple Connects or Maps
Yep.
Connect at Apple, that's how we would make our business profile through Apple.
That's right. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So you can
Love
follow
it.
the prompts
Thank you
on
so much,
that.
Bryce.
And while you're at it, I'll just go ahead and throw this one in there too, because Microsoft, their one is called Cortana, and that one pulls from Bing Places, and that one's actually really easy to do because if you sign in to the Bing Places one with the same Google business, Google email that you sign into your Google business profiles with, then it will just copy over that information. So that one's real easy just to get up there too, just in case.
Can you send that link? Oh, there it is. Thanks.
Yep. No
He's
problem.
on it.
You betcha. Good questions. Does anybody have any experience, just so if there is anybody that has a specific person or thing that they've used that's worked well with anything on social media? Going once, going twice.
Sorry, Bryce,
Cool.
what do you mean?
Jordan was asking about using services of companies that maybe would come out and record videos for you or post content. Main feedback from Nicole was essentially, yeah, you can do that. Find somebody local is probably better than anything else and just see what exactly they're going to give for you. But first, try to do something yourself with scheduling posts and things like that and see if that starts to generate some content traffic because that can be a pretty low-hanging fruit just once a week. 15 minutes using ChatGPT to give you some content.
Don't overthink it. You're just staying in front of that database. That's where people kind of get stuck. And I think that's why a lot of people want to hire it out, is because it's like, oh, I don't want to mess up. And it's like, you're just staying in front of them. Post a pretty picture with a ChatGPT generated caption. You're good. Promise. But again, for remodelers, please get professional photos of your completed projects, please.
Yeah, we talked to one of our realtors that we have like a kind of a deal with and see who they use for their photos. And so ended up meeting a guy through that. He charges us like $150 a pop and does all our photos.
Nice.
Realtor guy.
Mm-hmm.
They're used to taking those kinds of pictures, interiors of houses and stuff. Know how to make it look good.
Mm-hmm. Nice. What other questions do we have this morning? Anything else? Not anything else. I'm sure there's plenty else. What other questions do we have this morning?
Bryce, I've had a question for a while I wanted to ask the group.
Go for it, man.
Specifically to remodelers, kind of contractors. I'm curious to know how you guys pay, like if let's say you probably have some full-time people that work for you, but you probably also sub. How do you pay your subs? Like you work off of like a percentage? Do you guys have like fixed rates for things? And then also what kind of agreements and timelines does everybody have for paying guys? You pay them as soon as the job's done, you pay them every 2 weeks, just kind of curious.
Good question.
I mean, I've used subs before, and I've always done it as soon as the job's complete and I check it and it's good. Then I pay them right then and there, just so I don't have to worry about it coming back later. And I don't have to worry about that extra box getting checked when the customer hands the check over and all that jazz. But typically, when it comes to subs, I flat rate. Hey, look, this is what the job is. This is what I'm paying on it, and that's where it's at. I mean, that's just generally how I do it in garage doors. But
Yeah, Tyler.
I use. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, Tim.
That's all right. I didn't raise my hand. Let Tyler go ahead.
No, I was, as far as paying subs, that's all I use is subs. I don't have anyone that works for me full time. But typically, depending on whether it be a plumber or an electrician, I've learned to always give them their first. Let's say, for instance, a new construction home. They're going to want to draw after they come in, and it's usually a certain percentage, which they're giving me a dollar amount ahead of time. And I always find a way to break it into, okay, is it by the square foot of the house, or is it by the job or by the day? And I always get that subcontractor to tell me, okay, how many days are you going to have in this job? Or are you doing this by the square foot? So I know what their price is going to be for that job. And I also know it from when I'm bidding the next job. And beforehand, I'll say, okay, what do you usually ask for at the beginning? Do you want 50%? Do you want 60%? And I'm like, okay. And I always tell them, okay, you can do 2 draws or you can do 3 draws. I'll give you 50%, 30%. And I'm holding on to 10 until the job's done. And same thing with like a painter. A painter is the one that I hold the money on the most, because it's always, there's always touch up to come back. And if you give them all your money, if you give them all their money, it's hard to get them back. So hold it to the end, but stick to your end and get it to them at the end. But just have that agreement beforehand to where there's not a question for you or them. And the important part is figuring out how they're pricing the job so you know how to price the next job.
Where are you at, Tyler? Thank you for that.
I'm on the Mississippi coast, Gulf Coast.
Nice. Good stuff.
I'm in Florida, and I use strictly subs too. I don't have anybody. Well, I don't have anybody that works for me short of my estimator. We send the plans out, or we meet on the project with our electricians, plumbers, and we get a fixed price. We know what our drywall guys are. They're pretty easy. Our framers, we pretty much know where they are too. It's usually the mechanical trades that we're more concerned about. But we get deposits from the owners up front most of the time. And what we do is, my electrician will want 60%. I'm not willing to give you 60% out the gate. So I dictate a lot of what I give them. I tell them, I'll give you 30, 30, 30, and 10. So you'll have 4 draws in there, but coming out of the gate, I can't take all of my deposit money and give it to one sub. It makes no sense, because I know my plumber's going to want money as well. And so is my HVAC guy. Framers, not so much. Drywall guys, not so much. But definitely hold 10%. I hold 10% on everybody. It's just a standard practice. Timelines, I give them that input. I ask them, what's your timeline? They tell me what their timeline is. I usually add 2 or 3 days to everybody's timeline. just because I know that things happen. And that's pretty much how we do it.
Nice. Robert, go ahead, sir.
Essentially, I was going to say exactly what Tim just said.
Oh,
I think we lost you there.
that
I used to
timing.
do that now. I don't do it anymore. It ended up burning me a few times. Once it's kind of, if you have to pay him to play, it doesn't really end up working out. So I've kind of quit doing that and went to more give a small deposit in the beginning and then do more draws throughout.
Is that to clients you're doing that, or subcontractors, Robert?
Yeah,
Doing the smaller draws throughout.
subcontractors. Yeah, the
Okay.
subcontractor. And if it's a
Gotcha.
real small job, I just pay at the end. It's more of the bigger jobs. I'm trying to make draw schedules, I guess, for the subs.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm in Texas.
Yeah.
We only use subs also. It just, I don't see how it could make sense any other way, the way that labor works here.
Yeah, is part of your question, Lance, about paying them through a separate means, like rather than doing them through? Okay.
No, what I'm gathering is I like the idea of working on draws. I like the idea of flat rates. Some of this stuff we're already doing, but this is just kind of interesting. Just kind of curious what most people are doing, just seeing if I'm missing something.
Mm-hmm. Mr. Anderson, go ahead.
We only pay on Fridays. So it gives us an opportunity to check the job. Like, what if it's a small job and we maybe didn't go to it right when they finished, or weren't able to be there right when they finished, and we had to meet the customer and see what happened and check out the repairs or whatever. And so our policy with our subs is that they'll only get money on Fridays. So it kind of forces like a net, few days, net set up to net 7 days if they did work on Saturday or Monday or something like that. But like, it forces a net few days, so we have time to check with the homeowner, make sure everything was done right, make sure they're going to pay for what they were expecting to get. And so we've made that a policy. When subs sign up to work with us, they get a paper that explains all this, a document that explains everything, that they accept to receive payment only on Fridays. Like, that's when we pay. And yes, we do the draws if it's a bigger job or whatever, but they get payment on Fridays. Don't ask for it on Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday just because you did the work the day before. You get payment on Fridays.
Yep. I like that. I think it gives a good consistency. It's, I think, in line somewhat with what you're sort of doing as well, Lance, that you just have the regular payment interval that hits every time. And I think that's a really good way of keeping subs happy, setting clear expectations, and keeping up with cash flow as well. But Aaron, you got some stuff in here as well?
Yeah, one thing to mention, tied along with all that, is we've got really robust scopes of work. So every trade, and we're the same way. I have an employee, but we sub basically everything out. Kind of the way the market is. We're in South Central Pennsylvania, but we have scopes of work for basically every trade. I mean, depending on the job, larger jobs especially. So let's say we have an electrician, right? We'll go in and we've got a standard scope of work. We'll add in a couple line items for any specificity that's needed there. And then that becomes really the dictating document on what's being done in the house. And it really eliminates the, as you're paying these people and you're giving them money, if you can't check every little thing all the time, that scope of work is really going to save you in the end when they haven't done something correctly or they missed something. It's going to really give you something to fall back on and check on.
Nice. Yeah. Good feedback. I think somebody else had their hand up at one point. I can't remember who it was. But if you did at one point and you want to jump in here, go for it. Maybe I was just imagining it. Yeah. Feel good with that, Lance?
Yeah, this is all great. I mean, what we've been doing is we pay biweekly. Basically pay biweekly, and which helps us, pay in accordance with like our draw schedules. So we're not floating money too long. And then, yeah, typically smaller jobs we pay at the end, but, other jobs we pay like in draws, like real big ones and stuff. But I'm liking hearing what y'all are saying and making me just kind of feel more confident about what we're doing too.
Yep. To the other part of your question too, Lance, it is something that we definitely recommend is putting some sort of an agreement together. And that is like a subcontractor agreement. I'm putting a link to it in the chat there. As like a starting point, I think you have this, but just in general for all of the people that are here, having documentation, setting proper expectations before a job starts, that's something that we talk about all the time in these calls and honestly just in coaching in general. The better you do at that part, setting expectations, taking the extra couple of seconds or minutes to really go through that with somebody, even if they're not paying attention very well, even in those cases, it's still worth it for you to go through expectations and set the terms. I think a big thing that a lot of small business owners get caught up in, or at least the guys that I work with, and Travis and Nicole can, I'm sure, attest to this, but a big thing is in trying to be fair to a customer, they're not quite so fair to themselves. And you jump into action really quickly and end up getting yourself caught up in some really bad situations, not realizing that you set the terms whenever you start engaging in any sort of contractual work or labor. So as long as you remember that you're in the driver's seat when it comes to your business, someone has reached out to you asking for you to do the work that they've, called you for, that you set terms, and it's completely well within your bounds and a good thing to set those terms well. So, yeah, link in the chat is just a helpful aid to kind of get that started. Of course, you can add in other terms that you see fit, but that gets you somewhere to start with. And it's totally normal to establish and more formalize those relationships you may have with subcontractors as well. But you always want to keep your subs happy. They'll do well for you if you do well for them. Good stuff. What other questions do we have this morning? Thanks for the input on that, by the way, everybody. Good combo. What other questions? Insights? Nice. Benjamin, go ahead, sir.
Hey, good morning. I wanted to know if anybody does their own takeoffs, and if so, what software you found works best. And if you don't, do you leverage outside sources where you send them your documentation and have a third party do the takeoffs for you to estimate your bids?
Nice. Let's see. Yeah. Robert, you want to go ahead? And I think somebody in the chat put in a site that they use or an organization that they use there for you too, Benjamin.
Takeoffs on remodels, new house build, like what kind of?
Yeah, good question. I'm looking mostly at commercial buildings for like tenant improvement. I have a flooring store, and so I'm looking at coming in for the finish pages basically for the flooring that needs to be put in. So mostly commercial industrial buildings.
Would that not just be based off the square footage on that?
Not necessarily, because they might have it might be like an office space where they have vinyl in one room, tile in 4 rooms, and carpet throughout the halls, things of that nature. So I need to calculate the square footage for those individual areas. And then sometimes they want cove base put in, or they want tile base put in, and all kinds of different things like that. So I have to have a little more detail.
On the flooring, I'm not sure. I have my lumber supplier does all my takeoffs on lumber and stuff like that. Essentially, I send my roofing supplier all the information. They send me the takeoffs back on that. I'm not sure for flooring though.
Yeah, I started using program. It's called Methvin. It's a company out of actually New Zealand, but it's got bid system, takeoff system. It's also got project management, which we don't use. So you can just take your floor plan. It lets you calculate each room, do a takeoff on each room using your CAD drawings, so you can separate it all out. It'll give you the call outs. You can actually do wall surface area. You can do linears. You can do fixtures, just by doing check off on fixtures. They'll give you your fixture count. You can do it with mechanical vents, all that stuff. And it's cheap. They've got the free version, which you can do, I think, up to 5 projects with. And then they have what I'm using, which does takeoffs and bids, which is it's $27 a month. And then they got the full application that's like $190 a month. It's pretty inexpensive. The owner's a great guy, and their support has been really good. So it's something at least worth checking out if you're looking for a takeoff software.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, it was called Methvin, Methvin.
Yeah, I put the website in the chat. It's their website's methvin.org.
Yeah, cool. Thank you. Yeah, that is really inexpensive.
Yeah. It looks like, Scott, you'd put in a different software that you use as well. I'm going to talk about that one. I don't know where you're at.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I've actually used it for years. So this was on for commercial takeoff or like how any kind of building. So you download your plans into it. You can do measurements. You can do redlining, highlighting. You can do overlays. So if you're doing demo work, or if you've got your own layout plan that you're trying to work with, you can overlay stuff, overlay sheets, duplicate pages. So it's real big in the commercial side of takeoff. You can do custom scales too. So if you get somebody who has a sketch that they don't actually have it scaled, or you get a plan you don't have scaled, you can do a custom scale with a known dimension.
What's it called?
So the Plan Swift.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I've looked at that one.
What's the pricing like on that one?
I got in on it early, and when Oracle bought them out, they offered me a buyout on my license. It was at that time $79 a month, and I had bought it for $600 at that point. So I own my software, and I haven't paid anything in several years.
Yeah,
nice.
So I'm not up on current pricing.
It's fairly pricey at this point.
The website says it's
they've made it more
$2,000.
modular too. Yeah, they made it more modular too, so you got to buy all the little chunks to kind of make it work as needed. But it's pricier for sure now.
Yeah, website says $2,000 plus, and you get 2 hours of training.
I just put a link in the chat. This one, I have a client that last week just talked to him, isn't using it yet, but looks like a really promising software. It actually allows you to use just an iPhone to be able to do like 2D, 3D renderings and get measurements. And then from there, I think you can do takeoffs, materials estimates, that sort of thing with it. I think it works similarly to some of the ones above, but I think it's a little bit, I don't think it's as, it doesn't require CAD drawings and things like that. I think it's a little bit easier to get, download, and learn how to use pretty quickly. I don't think there's a steep of a learning curve. It doesn't seem like. So put the link to that one in there. But the great thing about that one is just it's an app on your phone that you can use as kind of a LiDAR scanner. You can kind of take the room and it'll put it into the software, give you your 2Ds, 3Ds, and then materials from there as well.
Yeah, I'm not going to start a brawl here or anything, but that's good for people that have iPhones.
Sure.
A good man.
Bryce likes that comment.
He does. He's the only one. And sometimes Robert, I don't know if it's on purpose or if it's just
It's on
subconscious.
purpose.
He leaves Bryce out of like work group chats. He's just like, nope.
Which
Stay
some may
strong,
see
brother.
as a con, others see as a benefit. You know, pick your
Stay
battles.
strong.
Oh, that's funny.
Michael, what do you got, sir?
Hey guys, good morning. I was gonna say sorry, my camera something's a bit. Fiverr is also a solution that I've used. Fiverr. What they do is obviously they're out of state, but a lot of them are like they're licensed, and you can get some really inexpensive and competitive pricing either for mechanical plans, anything that you might need. I don't know if you ever heard of Fiverr, but it's also another great solution for what you're looking for.
Fiverr does takeoffs?
Well, they
Fiverr's
create.
just a network of people who know how to do things and do it on the side as like a sub. So there's probably people on there that have, like you said, license and stuff. It's just consulting essentially. You find somebody who's good at what they do.
Yeah.
Thanks for the reminder. I forget about that. Nicole mentioned another one too. I can't remember which one a little bit earlier, but there's a handful of those kind of websites where you can basically hire somebody as a 1099 to do a job once or multiple times.
Yeah.
Thanks for the
Upwork.
reminder. Yeah,
Upwork is the one
yeah,
that we used.
that's it.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Have you used anyone from Fiverr for something like that before, Mike?
I have. I used them for a couple of my commercial projects, and they detailed the labor, the materials that I needed. I mean, they gave me the full solution and the plans. So I provided the plans, and they broke it down for me on how I should price it, how I have to price it over to my contractors if I wanted to break it down by trades.
Nice.
Yeah,
Great.
that's a good reminder. It's definitely something I need to be better at, is trying not to do everything on my own, to find ways to leverage other people's skill sets. So thanks for that.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, it's a great comment there in there too, Ben, is knowing what is worth learning and what is worth delegating. Because there are things that eventually, right, you're going to run into these friction points where your business is requiring you to learn or, reach this new level of skill in something. And sometimes that's uncomfortable. There are certain things, right, that you should work with your coach on to make sure, okay, I do need to understand how to interpret my P&L, but I don't need to understand how to create the P&L, right? Like the distinction between things like that, to say, yes, I should learn, like develop this skill versus being able to delegate. There's a really something that we talk about from time to time called the Eisenhower matrix. It's something that I use personally a lot, but it's basically a grid decision-making prioritizing tool. Give me 1 second. I'm going to try to pull up an image of it as I talk about it. But the main thing for me is to reinterpret how they have it written out there. Here we go. Got it. It's a quadrant. You ask if this is important or not important, if it's urgent or not urgent. And the way I reinterpret those two things is important means I specifically have to do it. Nobody else could do it. If it's not me, then it's not going to get done. So that's important versus not important. If you can give that task to somebody else, and then urgent versus not urgent is if I don't do this now, the same result isn't available to me later. Kind of reinterpreting that, but that same kind of quadrant of interpreting everything that comes to you throughout your day as a task of whether or not you should take that on. I just like that concept a lot, so I wanted to jump on it and run with it for a second. But I think that's a really big, I don't know how to put that in a bucket necessarily, but that's a big concept, I think, that is really valuable, is knowing what you can and can't delegate.
And one comment that I want to make before we move on from that is a lot of times whatever is screaming at you the loudest does not mean that it is the most important thing. You know, the employee that's screaming at you, the customer that's screaming at you, that doesn't mean that's more important than you sitting down and going through your profit and loss statement for the month or doing your estimate comparisons. Like the things that are screaming at you are still things that you can put into your schedule to address at a different time whenever you are done with the task that's in front of you. And so just keep that in mind. Don't throw things into that, important category just because they're loud. That's a hard thing to learn. So just take a breath. Things don't have to be addressed right now. Take a breath. Is this something I can build into my schedule?
Windows DS. Sorry, I don't know who you. Oh, Fletcher.
This is
Mr. Fletcher.
Hey, sorry, I didn't know I was. Usually says my name anyway. This brought up. I didn't have any questions initially, but this conversation brought up a question I have. I'm meeting next Tuesday with someone who's going to help with my books, and a new person. And I've heard, and I just want to hear what everybody's opinion is. I've heard that you should keep your bookkeeper and your tax lady or your accountant and your tax person separate. I want to know, how does everyone manage those two? They have it under one person. They do it themselves. Do you keep it separate? And is it a good key to keep them separate?
Jordan, hot on the trigger. You're muted though.
I was just had a separate question, but for our business, my wife does the bookkeeping. She's very good at it, so I got really lucky that she was willing to take on QuickBooks and figure it out. And it's not an easy software to learn. So it took her probably like a year to 2 years with lots of. But our accountant links to our QuickBook account so they can see the exact same thing. So when she has a question or gets stuck, she can call and ask. They're expensive phone calls. But, after like the second year or like year 1.5, she really hasn't had to call much. It's few and far between now. So it was worth it to learn that in the long run, But we have a separate accountant, and my wife does the books. But I have a separate question other than that after you're done.
Sweet. Go ahead.
We really recommend having it all in one place. It's just so much easier. Now, it's not going to be easier if your bookkeeper or accountant sucks. And if you have a situation like Jordan where both of them are great, like I'm a big believer, and if it isn't broke, don't fix it. Like if what you're doing is working, awesome. But I would really highly recommend having it all in one place. If your bookkeeper or accountant isn't actively meeting with you or trying to actively meet with you once a month, big red flag. If they aren't wanting to walk things through with you and give you advice, big red flag. If you are just paying more and more in taxes and they are giving you the same advice or no advice, big red flag. We do have somebody who we recommend. We use him. A lot of our clients use him, and so we can absolutely set anybody up with the bookkeeper and tax professional that we recommend. But typically, clients who end up switching to him end up saving quite a bit of money on their taxes, and they get a lot more close to their numbers, and they have somebody that they can call, and it's all one fee. That's something that Jordan kind of mentioned with theirs, is if they call with questions, they get charged more. That is not the case here. That is what they are there for. That's why you pay kind of a monthly fee. Same thing with like your Redmond growth consultant, where you get to reach out to us. We're not charging you more just for questions, so I would really recommend having it all in one place. If you need somebody to refer you to, if you need somebody, we can totally give you some options.
Yep. I think taking that from a different angle as well, just looking at it financially, if you can consolidate services, do so. Most CRM softwares do most of the same things, right? But I've met with so many guys that will have 3 or 4 CRM softwares that do maybe one thing really well, and then they're paying just as much to have another software that does a lot of the same things, and then maybe one thing also super well. So doing the research to find a way that you can get that well consolidated that's one example. And I think bookkeeping and tax prep is another, because for an accountant, a lot of times they're a higher rate, right? They're going to cost you more. But if you can find an accountant that does the yearly taxes, but also is willing to do the monthly bookkeeping at a reasonable rate, absolutely. Consolidating those services, like Nicole said, not only for an ease of use standpoint and the integration between those two, right? So there's not one person saying we can't do our job until this person finishes their job, but also from the state stance of financially, that it can make a lot more sense to do it that way too. Jennifer, did you have some feedback on this, or was yours another question as well?
It's actually Nico and Jen. We had a separate question.
Okay, nice. We'll go to Jordan first and then come back to you guys.
So we got a 1-star review on like a $200 job. Yeah. And I don't know like what was even wrong with the job, like it was just a simple repair on a light, fluorescent conversion to an LED, and the customer complained about the price and that we like took advantage of his pregnant wife who didn't really understand what was going on. And basically he won't respond to it. I'm wondering how long I was gonna talk to Nicole about this too, but how long should we spend trying to reach out, remedy the situation? How can a customer change the review status from 1 to 5? And like, at what point do you just reply to the review, or do you continue to try to reach out?
Yeah, I would say immediately, well, not immediately, with your coach, work through so you're not emotionally involved, but reply to the review as soon as you can, stating what is true, not getting into necessarily the weeds of it, but ending that response with, if there's anything we can do here, please reach out to this number here and put your number in, and then a little tag in your name, owner of the company. As far as like a hard and fast rule on how long to do that, I think it depends on if you're getting any sort of feedback at all from the person. But as long as you respond properly and adequately to that review when people see it, that's just going to be part of doing the business. Ultimately, you do want to, as you're trying to do, reach out and rectify the situation, right, in earnest, as long as you can, whatever's within your control. And people can change their own reviews. But I wouldn't let it linger on if there's no response or no feedback from them at all. Make sure you've already put your reply on the review and let that go. And you can also, we've had more success recently with this where you can have maybe 5 or 10 people report the review in the same fashion. Whenever you go on there to report a review, it'll give you a drop down of options if they all select the same one. Sometimes those reviews do get removed as well. So that'd be my 2 cents there. Any others?
Lance had a good idea.
What's that?
He said use it as an advertising tool. Just we're the worst electrician ever, according to one person.
That's awesome.
Add that to the one sheet.
Yeah, add that to the one sheet. And then right beside where the QR code is to read your over 200 5-star reviews. I love that.
That's awesome.
I like the kill them with kindness approach. Just let them know that they've been heard, because most of the people that leave reviews like that and go off the reality of the situation, they start talking about their pregnant wife or their dog died or whatever has nothing to do with the job. Those people are just looking for attention and are having a crappy day. So the theory I always use is I don't know at any given point what's going on in somebody else's world. So I just try and kill them with kindness, and that we always do our best, and we'd be happy to find a win-win, find a solution to the issue, whatever. And that usually shuts people up really quick when they realize that they are full of piss and wind, that they're complaining about something that doesn't even matter or that isn't even true. So I personally, to Bryce's point, step away until I'm emotionally not involved anymore. And then I step in with kind of a kill them with kindness response in fairly short order, so that it's not like this long drawn out time frame between when it was made and when I respond. But
yeah, I was considering talking about or telling the person like, hey, we would gladly refund your money, you know, like one job is not worth. But I'm trying to think of like how I would frame like, hey, we would gladly refund your money if you're unhappy, to like segue that into like if you would remove that review, you know, or something.
Instead of losing the money, you might offer them like a substantial discount on another service to give you an opportunity to show that you are, you know, good at what you do. And, you know, this might have been a fluke thing if it was something that was actually true, instead of just giving the money. But yeah, there you go. Ask the coach what to say.
Yeah, I mean, I would gladly return $200 over a 1-star review. Lance.
Amen. Dale Eads, I call my coach and ask what to say. We've had many of those calls, Dale. Love, and that's textbook. And we've gotten a lot. The last review that I got removed for a client by doing the exact tactic that Bryce recommended earlier was this ex-employee of Dale's that used the name Plumber Buttford on his review. Left a 1-star with no context, and so we disputed it and got it removed.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen every time, but it does happen.
I mean, if I can jump in, everybody pretty much hit the nail on the head on all the points that I was going to say. The only other thing that I was going to say is take it with a grain of salt, man, because there's like 5% of people in this world that would leave you a 1-star review if you gave it to them for free. So, I mean, they're just unhappy people. I mean, definitely go through all the things that they mentioned, but at the same point, just keep it in mind. There's always going to be those people that just have nothing good to say, regardless of how excellent you did your job or anything. And I mean, in my years of doing this and doing what I do, I've managed to keep myself at a 4.95 across all platforms, but there's always that one, at least one customer a month that, you know, I could give them a brand new door system and motor system and they'd still be unhappy because it was me, you know? So take it with a grain of salt. I mean, put action to it, but take it with a grain of salt, man. Separate yourself from the actual situation and think about it.
I'm curious to know what you coaches think about, you know, if you have nothing but 100% 5-star reviews, the idea that are some of these paid for, or some of these, you know, bot farms that are slipping reviews in. So having a lower review every once in a while to kind of show that you're still fallible and human. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, at the end of the day, if you get a 1-star or negative review, honestly, it oftentimes will work in your favor, especially in the overwhelming majority of positive reviews that you have gotten, right? It does bode to some legitimacy. Should you ever strive for that? No, right? Still strive for the 5 stars. But if you get one, of course, it's not the end of the world. I just think from my perspective, it's not going to be something that you really gain much from putting a lot of thought towards, of kind of gamifying how your rating looks. You know, you just strive for the best, go for those 5 stars. You will have those negative Nancy's and the Karens that run through. And I think people see those legitimately for what they are. One of my favorite things ever since I started doing this job, and I learned about the value of reviews and how important 1-stars are. And anyways, one of my favorite things now is to always go and look at the 1-star reviews. And I think consumers may do this too, but to go and look at the 1-star reviews, because most reasonable people can recognize that a lot of the 1-star reviews are pretty irate. So roundabout's long way of saying, essentially, I wouldn't be too concerned about appearing fake, especially if any of the reviews that you have photos, things like that. I wouldn't concern myself with that too much. Travis, go ahead.
The other thing I was just going to say is, if you try everything that you can to get them to change it, get it removed, like whatever, yes, respond, all that. Then the second thing is just try and kind of bury it a little bit. The main thing is just, if somebody clicks on most recent, we don't want that to be the one that pops up for very long. So just really put even a heavier focus maybe than normal on getting a ton of reviews this week. You know, push that down so that at least the visibility of it is a lot lower.
Can I add to that, Bruce?
Yeah, go ahead, Fletcher.
I actually got a 1-star review that's a paragraph long yesterday from a customer from 5 years ago.
Oh.
That received a text message for a scheduled service for this year. And the customer was complaining that what they agreed to have service for them is no longer what they want. And that we did it wrong. And it's a paragraph long, right? So I responded back to him immediately. I think it was like 11 o'clock at night when I responded back to him. I responded back immediately to them. And in my comment, I didn't make any promises. I'm sure it was a very corporate answer, but I just told the customer that what we aim to do, of course, excellence in craftsmanship and in service, and that a service representative will call you tomorrow morning. So as soon as I get off this call, I'll be calling that customer to find out what it is. But I also went and looked and saw what other reviews the customer has given, because you can also see what reviews that customer has given. And that customer has given the commercial chain Myers a 1-star, Jet's Pizza a 1-star, and their psychiatrist 5 stars. So I'm not so concerned about this customer other than I just need to bury it. Right? I just need to bury it. But I did respond to him immediately. And I'm going to call the customer to see if possibly I can resolve it and they can change their review. And if I'm not able to get them to change the review, then I'm going to talk to Travis to see if I can get rid of this review, because I have no idea how to dispute one. But this is from 5 years ago, and this customer seemed to be satisfied 5 years ago, but all of a sudden they're not satisfied. So, but our response was immediate, and that somebody would contact. My goal was to communicate to anyone who comes on to see that paragraph, to see our comment that we have responded to them immediately with the intent to talk to them and to resolve the issue that they have. So publicly, if anything, the PR says that we care, we give a damn, and we're trying to do something about it now.
And I think as well, if you're not able to get through to that person, really textbook, by the way, Fletcher, but as well, if you're not able to get through to that person, changing that tail end of it to say, if there's anything we can do, please reach out to us here. And you can put your office line, but please reach out to us, provide the number again, so that PR-wise, everyone will see the last thing that was said there was, hey, talk to us. Let's try to rectify the situation. And that speaks well as well. Really good. Nico, Jen, may have to hold your question here until we meet again this next week, or put it in the WhatsApp chat actually is also a better way to do that too. I'm going to put that link here in just a second, but we'll go ahead and wrap up this call the way that we always do. So we will have everybody, as you can, unmute your mics. We'll say growth on 3, and then get going off into the tail end of this week here and finish out this holiday week. But thanks for being here, guys. Thanks for participating, and we'll say growth on 3. 1, 2, 3. Grow. All right, guys. We'll see y'all later.
Bye.